We all have plastics in our bodies. Polyester or any other types of polyester. If you're sleeping in those types of materials, you're sleeping in plastic, which suffocates the natural breathing of your body.
Most people that if they have a liver issue, which is making them wake up between 12 and 3, there's probably an issue with microplastics.
Lots of people have anxiety. They don't realize like their environmental toxic load, their lack of sleep, which is this vicious cycle that's just feeding it.
I think this is where technology is going to be great for us.
Because of the advent of all these different technologies, we have the ability to look inside and see what is actually going on inside our bodies that are impacting us. Because the two other big things that we can talk about from the sleep hygiene perspective is
Today's podcast is with Brian Watson. He's an entrepreneur, owns several businesses, but he's ultimately a health nut like the rest of us are. Likes to go down the rabbit holes. So what you're going to hear about today, microplastics. The fact that breathing microplastics is the biggest issue right now. To sleep hygiene, and what does that mean? It actually starts in the morning. So you're going to hear more about that. And then just in general, men's health, low T levels. What are some of the things that both of us do to get those levels at high numbers without really trying in terms of we're not taking testosterone? So learning how you can increase those levels naturally.
from a plastic standpoint, I was going to talk more to one, not to be alarmist, but it is everywhere. Right? Yeah, we all have a lot of plastic in us.
Yep.
And tied to like, especially I'll start to talk to the male side of the things in terms of like the actual issues and why men think like testosterone is the whole thing, but they don't realize the actual root cause today is probably microplastic exposure through their underwear because it absorbs them through the scrotum into the testes. And it impacts the Leydig cells, which has the whole cascade effect of lowering testosterone, lowering sperm count. And this is not like anecdotal, like this is actual like science now, right? Yeah. So the drop in testosterone in sperm, from the 80s to today is over 50%. And that's scary.
Yeah, for sure.
So people, from a men's health perspective, that's one thing. I'll allude to like some of the promising research on like okra and fenugreek plants that are high mucilage plants that have a lot of polysaccharides. Those have been shown to actually flush out microplastics. Cool. And talk to EPO and EPO2 and how that's also has the ability to remove microplastics.
Cool. Do you think when you go into like okra and stuff like that and you bring those like all these big terms, can you maybe just dim it down a little bit to like you say
I'll say
polysaccharides,
say like just think sticky, think of mucus, right? So bread, those are high mucilage compounds. The mucus, sticky, phlegmy. They bind to things and help.
That'd be perfect. I think that'll.
Yeah. Then just the where some of those predominant sources are.
Okay.
And how you can start just there. Because I can talk about my journey, because I really started probably a year and a half ago of really being more conscious of where plastics are.
Okay.
As the science really started to emerge in kind of 2024, a lot of, really looking at microplastic, nanoplastics, and then like, okay, we've gotten away from those natural fibers, right? And so the actual best performance, since I shifted to like wearing like wool for workout gear, phenomenal. Like just the way it absorbs everything and just dries quickly, doesn't stink.
Yeah, so I guess we have to think about the stuff that's every day, right? So every day is clothing. Every day is drinking water. Every day is eating certain foods, taking supplements. Where can we reduce the everyday stuff? So I think clothing makes a lot of sense. Is it only when you're sweating in the clothing, or is it just in general?
In general, because we won't think about is the plastic, it's in everything, right? It actually sheds. And
Right.
so that's where now the urgent science is that shedding of those plastics becomes those nanoplastics, which are in the air.
Yeah.
So that's why actually, yes, water filtration is crucial for a bunch of other different chemicals. We've talked about those and plastics, because like, for example, reverse osmosis is the only water filtration system that will actually remove microplastics.
It does. Okay.
Will remove fluoride, will remove heavy metals, all those things that are also impactful. Because it's that cascading of just, you have this toxic overload. So it's not just plastics and people just group that in, right? And we got to think about, this other chemicals, bisphenols, phthalates, which are parts of those plastics that leach off. And when it comes to clothing, the dyes that are used also have those chemicals, which contribute to all that whole process, right? So you think about washing your clothes and drying them. Well, drying spits out stuff, right? And getting into your air. So like having dedicated like for example, in my room, I have a specific type of filter floor unit that just is constantly cycling air, and then having higher rated HEPA filters for your like house filtration. Stuff like that.
Okay,
And that's
so
14.
you have a water filter, and where is it just for the whole house, or is it like just one?
No, so most of those full house water filters aren't going to remove all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So people think like, oh, I want a whole house water filter. Well, the best thing to do for your drinking water specifically is to have like a dedicated RO unit under the kitchen sink that spits out clean water for making coffee or just drinking in general.
So reverse osmosis, is it expensive? No,
Less than $200 per system.
because usually when you see water systems, you're talking about like thousands.
Yeah, I mean, you get into like those Kangen systems and some of
Yeah.
those things, they get pretty pricey. And while they're good because they make the water more alkaline, which is also beneficial for us, for your body and not getting sick. So RO does have there's a downside to it if you just drink straight RO water, right? Because it's slightly more acidic, not good for the body, and it's replete of all minerals.
Okay.
So we have to add back in calcium, magnesium, potassium, salt.
Got it. Okay. So you gotta make sure to put minerals back in, which really we have to anyways with almost any water we buy these days.
Right.
Okay, so that's awesome. That's a great tip. Easy to install. Like you've told me before, I could install it when I'm asleep.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, more mechanically inclined, I can go through and just. But in general, if you can, I guess, manipulate a wrench. There isn't a whole lot to them. They make these systems a lot easier now to install.
Okay.
But there's also now they have tabletop units, and ones you can even put under the sink that don't have all the messy cabling in terms of hoses. It's all the different filters.
I
And
would
some
need that for the wife.
yeah, and some of those now even have pumps associated with them because most of the systems now it's a series of filters
Okay.
and there's a tank, and so it goes through the thing, gets rid of all the wastewater and then fills that tank, and then the spout comes from that tank.
Got it. Okay.
So after that, when that tank starts to get low, we'll get lower product coming out of the thing. But now they have pumps inside those, those self-contained units that actually just keep it flowing continuously.
Okay. So what kind of minerals do you put back in yourself?
Specifically, I use magnesium. I get bulk magnesium malate.
Okay.
Get some just regular salt and potassium.
We say regular salt, like we use Baja Gold.
Yeah, so that's what I use.
Okay.
The downside with like Baja Gold is bigger kind of chunks.
Yeah, it's fluffy.
And it doesn't dissolve as well.
Right.
Now it works great in the morning for so first thing I do when I wake up is put some of that salt with lemon juice and water. So it actually dissolves.
Yeah, okay.
Just to rehydrate the body. But in general, what's in my water right now, I just make up a bulk batch of it. I actually keep a little salt shaker that's that solution, so I just carry it everywhere and just dump some in.
Oh, sweet. So tell me about that solution. So you just took a little bottle, you mixed the Baja Gold sea salt with the water. That's it. You made concentration. Is that what you need?
That's for the morning. So my actual mix is again magnesium, potassium, and salt. And I get some bulk salt that's just straight sodium.
And the potassium, is that also its own ingredient?
Yeah.
So you're just mixing those three things in a little concentrate.
Okay.
And then you just, as you go, pour it in the bottle or water. Yeah, that's awesome. That's the kind of stuff that I think is super useful.
Right, and then tie that back to why that's important from the cellular health standpoint,
Yeah.
to make sure that your cells are actually hydrated. Because if you just drink RO water, which it's akin to distilled water, same end result, just a new process to get there. So distilled water uses steam to remove all the crap out, and what you're left with is the good water. But again, slightly acidic, no minerals in it. So if you're just drinking that, your body has to try to make up for that somewhere. So you're actually pulling ions out of the cells.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not.
I've had a few clients over the years or people I've worked with that literally have done distilled water and that's all they drink because somehow they heard about it. Like it was the best way to do it because you're taking all the bad stuff out. But then you're also taking anything out of the water that's useful for the body. So it's like, from my understanding, it's also can leach from your system.
Yep.
And you can tell in the skin, it's like dry skin, and you can just tell more dehydrated, even though they drink a ton of water. Just the wrong water. And then there's 1,000 different electrolyte and hydration powders out there, right? So then we either go with the one that's paleo or has like the right words and keto
And we could talk about that too, just because some of those are good in terms of what they have. In my opinion, like Element, for example, that's one of the big ones, and that was kind of during the keto kind of phase, and that was their marketing push towards it. And so obviously, if you're on a ketogenic diet, you do need more of those because of just the diet itself, right? You need to be supplementing with more salt.
Yeah, right.
And so that's where Elements, and it has too much salt in it. So it's like 1,000 milligrams of salt in a little package, right? And so
Damn, that is a lot.
so I think I don't remember specifically, but I think it was like for like a quart of water, you put this whole thing in there.
Okay.
And it's like you're drinking seawater. I just need a little bit of flavor. I don't need.
Yeah, right.
I need to drink seawater. But like, so that's where I used to use those and just kind of, again, pour it into my little salt shaker and just pour a little bit into each one. So I'm getting enough electrolytes that way. But it's pricey, right? So then a box of those is like $40.
Yeah,
actually maybe 3-4 weeks. So that's pretty expensive. If you buy the stuff in bulk and just make up your own ratios of that, following that same kind of line logic, that's one way to do it. I lean heavier on the magnesium side because we're just pretty richly of magnesium in general because there's less in our food sources, and from the the gold standard of minerals in the body, that's part of more than 300 processes in the body is magnesium. So we need more of that. So I lean heavier on the magnesium than the salt.
Yeah, tell me your opinion on this. So this was just my thought when I created a formula for hydration. Is let me actually pull whole food ingredients versus when you get a lot of these electrolytes, they'll put the actual sodium ingredient in it, right? More of a synthetic version of it, the potassium ingredient, sodium. So instead, I was thinking, why not put like organic lemon extract or organic lemon powder into it to get what you need, and then Baja Gold sea salt for the mineral side, and then coconut. So I did a organic coconut, powdered organic coconut. Why do you think these companies don't use those ingredients? Is it because of price, cost, or
From a shelf life stable products, right?
Yeah.
Or to pull that stuff out, or to make it liquid, right? You'd have to add a ton of of preservatives just to keep it from creating mold, bacteria, all those other things. So that would be my guess from a from a mass production standpoint. The downside of a lot of this too is you see have a lot of sugar content, so it's just pure sugar. So yes, if you're completely dehydrated, like using sugar to help funnel some of that stuff in, can be beneficial, but from like a daily use standpoint, all right, it's just that's a metabolic red flag in itself, right? You're just flushing pure sugar into your system for no reason.
for sure? And that's where Gatorade went wrong, right? And it was a good concept at first, and then they just started adding crappy salt, shitty sugar, and now it's just this like toxic.
It's getting worse, right? So now what's in there? It's like they call it zero sugar, but what is the substance?
Exactly.
It's sucralose, which again is a compound that doesn't feed your body.
Yep, the forever stuff, which is what big part of what we want to talk about today is this like forever chemical we're getting, microplastics, general chemicals. Do I think we can get away from it? No, but can we reduce it and help the body deal with it? Absolutely. That's got to be the plan.
So we could talk about because all those things actually do lead to sleep and anxiety issues.
Okay.
And then the lack of sleep also compounds on anxiety issues. People like today, especially, like lots of people have anxiety about whole sorts of things, right?
Yep.
And they'll attach it to certain life events, and those things can deal with that or cause it, right? But they don't realize like their environmental toxic load, their lack of sleep, which is this vicious cycle that's just feeding it, right?
Yeah.
So like again, those plastics absorption has been shown to cause mimicking effects in terms of insulin resistance, right? So you have those particles the body doesn't know. We were not designed. Our bodies were not designed to handle plastic.
Yeah, right.
Or these chemicals. And so people say, well, the body can take care of itself. Well, true. But we're in this world where, sure, you have all the different bodies saying, oh, it's safe, right? It's at these safe limits. Safe limits aren't for people. They're set in a way to actually preclude manufacturing processes from becoming too exorbitantly expensive. And so there's a lot of lobbying that goes on to sure manufacturers for all those different types of chemicals. Because again, if let's say, for example, like bisphenol A, bisphenol A was one of the original bisphenol plastic types that was used for all kinds of plastics.
Okay.
And so that was identified as like the big issue. So
Is that the whole BPA?
yeah, so BPA free. So great doesn't have BPA in it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have endocrine disrupting chemicals as well. So it replaced those BPAs with BPDs, BPCs, like there's all these other types of bisphenols, which we don't know the impact.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you can kind of connect the dots, we probably know where it's going.
Right.
It's going to be the same thing. So just because BPA free doesn't mean we're completely safe.
Right. And why is it so important when you say endocrine disruptors, adrenals, thyroid, pituitary gland, hormone related organs are being disrupted?
Right, bubble HPA axis and how all that. I mean, because everything's interrelated. So once some hormones get off, there's the other parts of the system have to go into overdrive. That's I mean, you think of from a diabetes standpoint, insulin resistance. The insulin, the pancreas has to work a lot harder because of that imbalance. We'll have more and more insulin, which is a hormone, causing those issues. Then we were talking about growing leptin in terms of how all those components also feed that cycle to cause those to go the wrong direction, right? So it suppresses the leptin, so satiety signal goes down, and ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone, goes up. So if they're going the wrong direction, and that's been shown by these chemical receptors.
You gave me a stat earlier about I don't know if it was testosterone levels or fertility levels since the last 50 years and how it's changed. Do you think the manufacturing and usage of microplastics or exposure has changed that much too in those 50 years?
Hard to say. So for example, I think the first generation that really experienced the toxic load is Gen X.
Okay.
Because that's when the stuff really started to be kind of early, more exposure, right? So in the 60s and 70s, once some of these plastics and things started to be made, and it wasn't a known thing, more exposure with no regulation, and then starting in the 80s and 90s, okay, we started identifying media regulation around some of these things that they might be causing issues.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just look at the general trend of where all of our diseases have trended, everybody points to, sedentary lifestyle, lack of exercise, lack of nutritious foods, all those are important components, but even the people who are doing all those things right still might be having to deal with all this extra crap in the body that are just causing that cascade effect, right? So you can work out all you want and wonder why you're not losing weight. Well, some of these components have now been termed obesogens.
Obesogens.
Yeah. So particles, just kind of like a hormone in cells, these components in the body that actually, tend to cause preferential fat deposits that we can't prevent.
I can't wait to see that commercial. Obesogens contains obesogens. That's crazy.
But then all that stuff we could then talk and tie into the sleep side of it, because again, metabolic dysfunction from lack of sleep. People think, I slept 6 hours and that's enough. And I'm just like, now you have lower sugar, right? Like it's not close. And then designing a sleep environment that helps you actually get better sleep while wearing wearables can actually help you. Because a lot of people say, I slept 8 hours ago. Did you? Just went to bed 10, went to bed 6. That's you actually slept for that period of time. And then what did you do before that, right? So it's not just the time sleeping. Sleep hygiene is designing your sleep environment, which actually starts when you wake up, right? And then it goes throughout the day. And then things you design around, which I can talk about all the nerdy things that I do at during the night. But now, I'm up over 2 hours consistently, more often than not, 2.5 hours of REM sleep and deep sleep at night. That's important, right? So from a deep sleep standpoint, the entry process in terms of the body just flushing stuff out, repairing itself, the immune buildup.
Yep.
And then from the lymphatic system, the brain, REM sleep is required to brain to get all that crap out. If you don't have enough of those cycles of sleep, this doesn't matter, right? How long you actually slept or think you slept. You're at a deficit for the next day, and that just compounds.
So you have all this information. We've talked about a lot of awesome subjects like this. So where does your background come from? Like, how do you know?
That's a good question. So I think, I've always just been a student of life. And so I had more degrees than I know what to do with. And so I've always been thirsty for knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of got out of the realm of just formal education and collecting degrees. It's more, you can learn anything, especially today.
Mm-hmm.
You have just AI. Everybody has access to the same amount of information. Now there's kind of a point there where not every piece of information that's on the internet or with AI is necessarily true. So it requires a little more research.
Right.
So for me, just being neurodivergent, I get hyper focused and go down rabbit holes. So if I'm going to learn something, I'm going to hyper focus on it, but I get really over focused on it for a period of time. So health and wellness has always been a staple of how I try to live and take care of myself. And so when I get down those rabbit holes, I pick up all this stuff and can design my environment to actually optimize my health. Because if I rely on a doctor to tell me what to do to be healthy, I'm not.
Okay.
I've got to, especially today, it's not just, we're in this fabricated environment, right? We're inside all day. We're under LED lights, which bad from the sense of just the color temperature, which we'll talk about, from all those different things that I kind of look at, okay, well, how can I optimize my health where I have the energy and I have to go day after day after day.
Right.
So, being in the military, doing government work for a long period of time, then shifting up to entrepreneurship for the past 7 years, I really, especially as an entrepreneur, like you have to take care of yourself. If you want to thrive, otherwise you're going to burn out.
And a lot of times we don't. Most of the time we don't.
Right, because it's not a priority. So
Right.
A lot of people think, well, it's selfish if I take time to take care of myself. Yeah, absolutely. You should be selfish, right? I'm selfish when it comes to my self-care.
Yeah.
My priority are self-care, sleep, nutrition, exercise. They don't relent to those things. Those things are crucial for me to sustain every single day.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So how do you feel about these lights? Like, this is a good light? You feel like we're getting
it's diffuse light. It's mimicking sunlight, right? It's probably 5,500-ish Kelvin.
Yeah, right. So it's bright. That's all I can say. You can't see anything else except you. So then there's a point where you felt like you really went into this health journey, or have you always just utilized it throughout your life?
No, I mean, there's times just, being in the military and doing government work where there isn't the ability to do things to actually take care of yourself in that fashion. Like you're inside the environment. There's only some things and you can control your environment, and you have that ability to control it to the best extent possible. We can't control our exposure to everything because it's hard.
Right.
But we can, do the things inside of our control and make a conscious effort to actually eradicate our plastics, design our sleep system so that we can actually get quality sleep.
So those are two big topics, sleep hygiene and microplastics, which I definitely want to go into today. So sleep hygiene, like what is that in your eyes? What's a routine that you go through, like that people at home could utilize that is considered sleep hygiene?
What I do and what I've designed might be a little extreme for some people, but really sleep hygiene starts when you wake up. So why does that start when I wake up? Well, in order to get our circadian rhythm to actually start in the right foot, one of the best things you do, and what I advocate everybody should do, I want that they should and shouldn't people, but it's important, right? Getting outside, and the first thing is getting sunlight in your eyes.
Right.
When it's low on the horizon, because it starts that actual circadian clock for the day. It sets the tone for the day, and it actually starts with your melatonin rush. That's going to help you sleep later at night. So getting sleep first thing in the morning is crucial. And then during the day, right? So if we're inside, we have artificial lights.
Right.
Just the way it is, right? And so if you're in those types of environments, things you can do to help minimize the amount of how those LEDs actually impact you. So it's not just the LED itself, it's the flickering. So for example, if you're under LED lights and took your phone out, you did a video in slow motion, you took a video in slow motion, you would see that flicker.
Yeah, okay.
So we can't visibly see it, but we are feeling, our body is feeling that flicker.
Right, okay.
That's actually disrupting, there's studies that's actually disrupting cellular health. There's outside kind of things that people look at, not enough on it now, but I certainly, if you think about it, if you sit in an office all day with artificial light staring at the screen, a lot of people, get the headaches, the eye strain, stuff like that. So it's something you do. Blue blocking light lenses are crucial.
Okay.
So if I'm going to be sitting in front of a computer for a long period of time, I've got yellow lenses so that I can see, I can see more of the visible spectrum of light on the computer screen. So the colors aren't super distorted, but it's blocking enough of the light so where I don't have that eye strain. It also helps with the flicker.
So it's blocking the flicker or just dimming the flicker?
Yeah, the way the light comes in, it's perceived by the retina, so you don't have as much of that. Those lenses will help. Now, obviously, as with anything that's out there that could be commoditized and monetized, there's lots of out there.
Yeah, I've seen $10 ones.
Fortunately, those $10 ones aren't going to cut it.
Okay.
For a quality, from the yellow lens spectrum, expect to spend $50 to $100.
Is there something you're looking for when you're searching for them, like a verbiage or a?
Yeah, just that they've actually been tested to block whatever spectrum of light. So from a computer screen standpoint, the blue light spectrum that we're concerned about is 450 to 490 nanometers. That's the light spectrum.
Okay.
That's going to be this disrupting aspect, especially when it gets later in the day when we go to sleep. So during the day, that's something you can do. For me, typically, I'm going to be sitting in front of a computer for a long period of time. I'll bring those, in the day, most lighting in the office or wherever. Sure, if it becomes an issue, I'll hold on, wear them. But more importantly, towards the end of the night, that's where I'll shift to my amber, my really strong orange blocking lenses, which block fully at 490. Yep, I should say, when I say fully, 98-ish%, right? You're not getting all of it.
Okay. And why are you doing that? Are you trying to prep the body for something?
As we get later in the evening, right, we weren't designed for artificial light screens. And what we do, what most of us do at the end of the day, it's like people watch TV, they're on their phones, might still be doing work on the laptop, and all three at the same time, late into, right, like I said, 7:38, 8 o'clock at night, we're still doing that stuff. And then sometimes people hold it until they go to bed, right? So that blue light is one disrupting your melatonin production. It's also disrupting your circadian rhythm from a standpoint, not just being ready to sleep. So from a cellular level, your body's like, it's still daytime, right?
Right.
That's where like color temperature comes into play. So for example, when you think of the temperature of color, right? There's a range for that. So for the sun on a sunny day, no clouds at noon, rough color temperature is 5,500 Kelvin. So okay, it's measured in Kelvin. So 5,500 K, you might see lights in the range of like 5,000 to 6,500, right? So that's what we're all being exposed to all day long. And so that is good from a energy standpoint, a concentration standpoint, because it actually focuses us. But it's actually really bad from a cortisol perspective. It actually increases cortisol. So again, people with anxiety versus sit there whose lights all day long in front of screens, it's actually doing nothing for their cortisol regulation.
So you mean there's a purpose to like the sun and the moon, like day and night for our body?
Right. I think before electricity, what we do, we woke up when the sun came up.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we started winding down and went to sleep when the sun went down.
There's a lot of times when I look back and just try to explain to somebody, this is how they used to do it. Like nobody knows why you sit down and eat a meal anymore. There's a purpose to that. You're waking up sunlight, starting to go and ease up when it's getting dark. We're putting ourselves in these artificial environments, which is taken away from our body's natural production. And not saying you can't survive like having, a night job. It's just you have to then prep for it. Like you have to protect the body for if you have to work through the night and then sleep during the day. But I've seen a lot of that situation, and they typically, like my nurses that work, night shifts, I tend to notice a difference in their health versus somebody who works a normal shift. And they even know as soon as they go into a day shift, there's a difference in how they feel. And it's when you can see it and the data shows it, like it's just a natural rhythm our body needs to be exposed to. And I think we forget that there's a way the body works. And it's just because there's not talked about as much anymore.
That's funny you bring up the people who have to work night shifts. I feel bad for those people, and we were not designed to operate that way.
Sure.
And so the bigger issue that I think most people don't realize is from a metabolic health standpoint, the worst thing you can do is have to work through the night.
Right.
And so they're finding out you can be perfectly healthy, right? Exercise, get the adequate sleep, eat just right. But that disruptive time frame of when you're sleeping actually causes metabolic syndrome, right? So metabolic syndrome is the precursor to prediabetes, diabetes, right? So all the diabetes, all it is a cascading effect of metabolic dysfunction. So your body not actually operating the way it needs for cellular processes. So that sleeping cycle actually exacerbates that whole thing. So you'll see people who are, again, perfectly fit, healthy, look healthy, eat right, do all the right things. They don't do the sleep part right, and they end up with it.
Yeah, that's wild. So sleep hygiene on your end, you mentioned just prepping from the morning on. So what else do you add in there? Like when we get towards the evening.
Yeah, so the evening, I also want to make sure that I'm getting sunlight in my eyes outside when the sun is getting close down, right?
Okay.
Also going to start the whole process from the melatonin production at circadian rhythm to get ready for sleep. I'm just wearing my orange amber blocking lenses that block out the majority of blue light so that, if I am going to watch TV or a movie on my pen or laptop or anything, I don't have that issue.
Okay.
The other thing we do is so it became popular probably 15 years ago, like as we shifted to a lot more LED lighting, which is good from an energy consumption standpoint. Absolutely, they last forever. But that artificial light is not good for us. And when it's at that higher color temperature, right, 5,000 plus Kelvin, which is again mimicking sunlight, which is also good for energy and all those things, but again bad for cortisol and the whole thing. We still have those lights on at the end of the day, not going to help us sleep. So for me specifically, like I have various lighting, so I kind of nerded out. Went to the
Food lighting?
yeah, so I nerded out and I use the Philips Hue lighting system. So all the light bulbs that I have in my bedroom, I can control with an app on my phone. When I have set times where they'll shift color temperature throughout the day. Right? So
Oh, that's cool.
they're going to go down to around 2,500 Kelvin, so that nice warm kind of orangey glow. And I can even control that and make it red light. So the overhead light late at night is the worst thing, right? So side lamps is okay. It's a little bit, higher on the color temperature spectrum. But
It's a good tip though, the bulbs.
Not cheap to get those bulbs and have the connectivity, but it's certainly something that can help if you're really trying to design it or sleep that since doing all those things has really helped my sleep. Because now I'm in again 2 to 2.5 hours each of REM sleep and deep sleep a night. Right?
Yeah.
So I think people don't realize again when we're talking about sleep, it's like, oh, I went to bed at 10. And I got up at 6. So I got 8 hours of sleep.
Right.
My question is always, well, did you?
Yeah. What's the quality of that?
And so now with the advent, and a lot of people are wearing wearables, right? So I've been wearing an Oura Ring for 3.5 years now. It tracks sleep, tracks a whole bunch of other different things. But as far as we're really able to kind of pinpoint, okay, why am I not getting so much REM sleep?
Yeah.
Why am I not getting so much deep sleep? Because people miss the fact of the importance of why those cycles are crucial for our body's processes, right? So deep sleep is for the entry pathways, which allow us to actually restore our body. Growth hormone, immunosuppression, all those different things to flush all the toxins out of our body from the day. So we need deep sleep for that. And deep sleep is typically in the first half of the night, and REM sleep is typically in the back half of the night. So REM sleep is for our brain, right? It's the lymphatic system to flush out all the toxins and the processes from the brain working all day long to clear all that stuff out.
Right.
If you don't have enough of those cycles, you're not getting rid of all that stuff, right? So that toxic buildup causes in the form of inflammation, and inflammation is the precursor to all the ailments that we have today, right? So if you don't realize that the first defense against inflammation is actually quality sleep. Other things that I do, and some of this we'll talk about later from a just textile material grid standpoint, but most people's sheets today probably are some sort of either combination of cotton and poly. Maybe some people have organic cotton. Organic cotton's great. Linen's probably the number one. So I've shifted all my sheets to linen. It's been used for many years.
Can you tell a difference?
Absolutely.
What's the difference you said?
Well, I noticed specifically just since I did that shift, increases in REM and deep sleep.
Okay, so your wearable's giving you this information.
Right. So I'm using a wearable to
That's
actually
cool.
find what all these different things I'm doing are actually impact. Certain things like bamboo is fine, right? As long as it's pure bamboo. Organic cotton's great. Linen's just it's probably the king just because of for people who understand that we're vibrational beings, we're energy. And so the frequency of those different materials, linens, roughly 5,000 hertz, whereas like cotton and wool about 100 hertz.
Okay.
So there's still good things to not have polyester or any other types of polyester, which are plastic, which is suffocating, right? So people don't realize, like, if you're
microfiber.
if you're sleeping in those types of materials, you're sleeping in plastic, which suffocates the natural breathing of your body and all those different things. And also, especially if you're sweating on the sheets, you're also actually absorbing, especially when you get warm, heat up plastic sheets.
Right.
You're bringing some of those chemicals back in your body, which is also disrupting your sleep.
Yeah, and that's something that is never really talked about. Sheets on a bed, right? Which is super important. I do see quite a few people that have issues with sleep. And I've realized that, sleep hygiene is super important. I haven't focused a lot on it, but what I'm noticing is things like the liver, lung being an issue. And when you go back to the Chinese body clock and the body between 12 and 3, the liver's detoxing itself. And if it's overwhelmed, subconsciously your body, it can wake you up to get you to move, right? Or 3 to 5 a.m., the lung. So I think this is where it's cool when we can scan the body and really see where these problems could be coming from. Because I think the sleep hygiene, avoiding microplastics, changing your environment is the way that you can keep it there, prevent it. But it might be good with the wearables and other things to figure out where in your environment at home and in your body the issues are. Because I would expect most people that if they have a liver issue, which is making them wake up between 12 and 3, there's probably an issue with microplastics or the lighting before they go to bed, the sleep hygiene. So it all like works together really well. And I think this is where technology is going to be great for us because you can see it on your wearables. I can see it in the scans and we know what we can tweak. And so the knowing what's going on in your body and what you can do about it is something that's probably underutilized. Would you agree with that? Or
Absolutely. And, again, it's not for everybody because, wearables aren't necessarily cheap, right? If you have the money for it, it's definitely a worthwhile investment to see, especially if you are struggling, right? So if you're getting older, having all these different issues and you're not getting answered from your doctor, you're like, oh, your blood work looks normal. Right? That's where you have to, in my opinion, today especially, you really have to kind of take control of your own health outcomes and look at, hey, well, there are, right? Because of the advent of all these different technologies, we have the ability to look inside and see what is actually going on inside our bodies that are impacting us. Because one of the two other big things that we can talk about from a sleep hygiene perspective is eating late meals can absolutely disrupt your sleep cycles.
Right.
Alcohol. I won't get into the science on what I deem inaccurate statistical analysis, where we said moderate alcohol consumption can be protective, right? No, alcohol is not good for our body, right? It's not good for it's just not. It's not good for us, and I can see it. If I drink alcohol, my REM sleep it suffers, right?
unless you drink enough alcohol to you black out.
Right. Well, that's the other fallacy too. Is I think a lot of people when you get into like, oh, just to sleep, I need to drink, right? Well, sedation doesn't equal quality sleep.
Right.
We're using cannabis gummies, things like that. A lot of people do that like it helps them sleep. Well, it's a sedative. It doesn't actually help you get better quality sleep. Or now with the melatonin supplements, which to me is just my personal opinion is I think it's a travesty, right? And so people don't realize like the actual dosage. So the dosage, a lot of it is this melatonin supplements, 3-5 milligrams, right? Well, our brain produces it, right? But at 0.3 micrograms, right? Like orders of magnitude smaller. And so when you flood the system with that much artificial melatonin, it does not actually help your sleep cycle. And you're setting yourself up for a whole other cascading issues that come down the line. You're going to be reliant on it. It throws your whole natural symbiosis in the body to be able to control your actual melatonin production.
Yeah. So then part of the issue with the alcohol, right? This is why people feel like it does help you go to sleep because it has a function to it that is working at a level where sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, if you come home and you've just been like in battle all day and you have a glass of wine or even just a straight good scotch or bourbon, it's just calming the nervous system down, right? Sure. It's kind of giving you this little, you can breathe real quick. And that's where I think you could utilize it. Depending on where your body's at, right? Because it's all circumstantial. If your body is in, your liver's functioning well and you do the right things for your environment and your body, and you have a glass of wine at night, I think there is a benefit to that depending on if you have low or high blood pressure. Like there's a benefit. And it's been used as medicine for a long time. And I'm just learning this through the years from my mentor as well, is when you have a bacterial or viral load in the body, and back in the day they hit some vodka in the Russian days and stuff like that. Like I feel like there is a purpose for it, but we just need to understand that it's not it's not there to help you go to sleep or fix a problem, right? It's just like the THC gummy in a sense that it's just helping to dim or reduce something that's overactive.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so like I'll do the same thing, right? Long stressful day, have some sake. So for me, I'll stick to the sake or tequila just because it's cleaner. It's not going to give you the headache that most people get with beer, wine, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or the sugary drinks that they combine with all that stuff that cause that issue. But yes, I agree. Like it will absolutely have that calming effect, but it still disrupts REM sleep. And I notice that every single time I take alcohol,
I agree,
my REM
totally.
sleep will drop consistently 20%.
Yeah, for
Even
sure.
just one drink. And now I have been playing around with noticing. So if I have it earlier, so if let's say it's like 6 o'clock versus like 8 o'clock, less impact on my REM sleep, but there absolutely still 100% is an impact on sleep.
Yeah, so I can imagine that timing is huge. Typically, because I go back to think about the Italians, right, which probably have wine every night, a bit like. And at one point, they had a really good longevity and good stats until COVID happened, and now their stats suck. But in general, the wine at a certain time, maybe right as the sun's going down when we were probably designed to eat dinner, not like late at night, right? There's probably a combination there, which is great. But we are in a different environment now where if we don't adapt to that and we just kind of go with how things used to be, that's where, again, we're falling into a problem.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there from an environmental standpoint is we take some of those studies and how people live in Europe, like Italy, for example, and we had to drink wine since they're kids, but it's like one or two glasses, right? And they're doing things differently. We take that and just put it into America, how we live, and it's not the same. We do actually have to more closely monitor that, and if it is impacting your sleep to the point where you can't do whatever, then there's other ways to decompress at the end of the day that we ignore like all the other the capacity to actually regulate our nervous system.
And breathing, right? Breathing is a huge
breath work, meditation, grounding, getting outside, walking barefoot in the grass.
That's where like people think Wim Hof is kind of this like over exaggerated sham now, right? What I love about Wim Hof is that he was so public about everything that people are understanding that there's breathing as a thing, which before him, I don't know if it was really like that public. So even though his method isn't the only method or the right method necessarily, I think it's great that he brought that to the public. But I've noticed it personally. If I ever feel like I'm getting a little bit sick or I'm just had a crazy stressful few days, I'll literally take a bath in magnesium chloride. I'll throw baking soda in there, sodium bicarbonate, usually lavender or something like that. And then I'll do that 11-minute video on YouTube that's free of the Wim Hof breathing method. And I swear to you, by the time I get out of there, the next morning, like everything's like completely normal. Just like a normal day waking up. Plus I sleep amazing that night too.
Well, these are all normal things that we also used to do, right? But now we view them as kind of this weird fringe. Oh, you're hippie, whatever. Just people don't want to do that. They want to do the cool techie, whatever else.
Yeah, get in the cryo machine, right?
And they just freeze yourself. Ignore the simple things that we can do, right? And so, like again, like going back to the sleep hiding, that environment. Well, I have to biohack that environment in order to actually get quality sleep, because otherwise it's just okay, sun's going down, turn off all the lights with that. Or if I want to continue to work or do other things, then I gotta design that environment that actually is going to allow me to sleep.
You know what, if I said that I biohack my body every week by taking a magnesium chloride bath, I'm pretty sure it'd be more perceived.
True. I'll
biohack my body.
Right, it's all around the narrative in the marketing.
For sure. And I think the biohacking part, everything we're talking about is biohacking the body. And I think it's really cool that professionals such as Gary Greck is talking about getting out in the sun. And then you can stand on the ground and get grounding, stand in the first 40 minutes of sunlight, like you said, seeing the sun come up, and do your breathing and whatever else you could add in there. That's like a 3-4 to 1, right? Just hit that every day. I can only imagine. And I don't know if they've done studies if you went down that rabbit hole, but people that are doing that and showing like clinical changes.
I don't know that there's, I haven't come across anything specifically. I'm sure
They're probably dead if they did.
I'm sure some people are, and right, that's the thing too. Is because we're talking about things that are free,
Right.
that can solve problems and disrupt trillion industries, and when you start doing that, then and I think it's also it's a time thing to be like, well, I don't have 10 minutes to do that.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
you do. It's about, is it a priority, and are you going to design your environment to take advantage of just again, maybe 30 minutes total a day to like do these specific things
Yeah.
to actually optimize your health, because it's like, oh, I gotta go, I gotta do this, but it's like, instead of scrolling on social or watching TV or Sports Center in the morning or doing whatever else, take 10 minutes to actually get your body ready for the day.
I've had clients or people I work with tell me that they just don't have a backyard, so they really don't want to stand in the front yard facing the sun for 10 minutes, which, okay, I understand that.
I get it, and I think that's where because that was always the perception. Like you'd see people do this stuff. I see people do it and feel like, oh, weirdos, right?
Yeah, it seemed like a horror movie to me.
But who cares? Who actually cares what those people think? Like, I'd rather just be healthy. If I only had a front lawn to stand in, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the weirdo out there doing that stuff and doing some meditative poses and body work and breath work, and
You'll be that guy for sure.
taking control of my health is way more important than what somebody else thinks about who's like driving by.
Yeah, we have to get past that for sure. I'll do the Wim Hof in the car on the way to work. And I get just imagine if people are looking in the window and they just see me like doing. I'm like, man, this guy's having a freaking attack over here. Like, that's the things, and implementing the stuff into our lifestyle. So I think that's important for us to talk about. So as a mom with 3 kids that are in their teens and whatever age, when are you going to have time to do a bath and do your breathing and do your sleep hygiene when they're cranking you all the way until you go to sleep? And I think that's part of where the struggle is. So figuring out how to add that in there is a struggle, but you really have to be selfish about it.
So it goes into, right? So for me, self-care, right? Self-care is being selfish. And in my opinion, every single person should be selfish about their self-care. Because if you're not selfish about it, take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of everything else? How can you take care of your kids or your sick husband or your wife who's dying or parents or whatever it is, right? You can't help other people if you're not in an optimized position to do so, right? Because especially when you get into like, some of that palliative care for elderly parents, for example, like you have to be doing that. It's a full-time job, right? So you have to find that time to take care of yourself so that you can actually have the physical and mental capacity to handle those situations. It's about designing and finding that time. And then I think it's important too, like when it comes to those situations that, that's where it's a family conversation. Like, hey, these are things I need to do for me. Here's the things that you need to do for you. We need to respect that time. Right? Just have real conversations about it. I think that's part of the issue too, is again, we think about some of these things as being weird, or like being people weird and like not want to have anything more than like this surface level conversation. That's also a big problem, right? Nobody actually wants to have deep, meaningful conversations.
I think the secret is what we just said. The secret is you have to be selfish with your self-care. The self-care is just so important. We all have ways that we do our self-care. It's just we might be missing certain things. So I think plugging in little pieces, like having these conversations and plugging in the little pieces where we can, are important. But it sounds like to me your most important is sleep hygiene and like setting your body up through its natural rhythms for the day. And is there anything else you'd say? Water is super important. Then the reverse osmosis, putting minerals back in the water. What else would you say is one of your top most important things for biohacking and keeping the rhythm going?
Nutrition and exercise.
So exercise, like.
I think people miss the point, and it's just not moving the body. Everybody thinks that, okay, well, to go work out, I have to go to the gym, I have to lift weights.
Yeah, that look cool.
Right. There's real big benefits to lifting heavy weights. Right. Absolutely. Right. So for building strength. But here's the thing that everybody misses, I think has been oversold. It's like you have to lift weights to like be strong and build muscle. And in my opinion, it's fundamentally, I do lift weights periodically. But not how most people would think. Mostly what I do is calisthenics. I do a lot of gymnast ring workouts. I jump rope. Like those are the things that I get joy out of doing. So I enjoy going out and jumping rope. Great mind, body, agility kind of workout. It's good for the brain to be able to do that and actually keep the rhythm and coordination to do it, right? Because most people be able to jump rope, like they can't do it.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy doing that, and I enjoy calisthenics from the ring standpoint because it's just hard, right? So lifting weights, right? Everything's in the sagittal plane. It's this.
Right.
You take a guy who's super strong this way and tell him to like do something over here and bring it up. When you're on rings, you have to have strength at all planes. So it's really a humbling experience when you first get into it. So for me, it was more that this is the challenge of that and certain body weight movements that are extremely difficult to do. I'm not looking to be huge, but just to maintain functional strength and mobility and maintain muscle mass, because that's from a longevity standpoint, right? That's what people are missing. Like, yeah, you could lift weights, sure, but you're not gonna be big like that forever. Right. Functional strength and mobility are going to be way more important, like the ability to just sit down on the floor without hands and get up off the floor without your hands.
That's like a longevity marker in some cultures.
Right, absolutely.
Being able to spin in place without falling over. I think it's the Tibetans. There's something in the Tibetan. There's something called the 5 Tibetan rites, I believe it is. And it is longevity movements. Just off the top of my head, there's a couple. Once, just like you mentioned, being able to get down to the ground, back up, being able to sit in a complete squat position for time, like that's showing the longevity as well. Spinning. Then there was some different movements that you do to like open the chakras in the body, like these energy fields in the body. Just 3, 4, 5 movements you do every day that just gets everything moving. And so I think you nailed it on the head. It's a fitness that you enjoy doing. So everybody has their own thing. They have to figure out what they enjoy to do.
And one is they have to do it.
They have to do something.
But here's the other thing too, is everybody gets locked into like, it's not a workout unless it's an hour. And for the people who want to just lift weights, that's fine. I think it's important to incorporate other agility, functional movements into it, right? So like instead of just going in the front plane, do twisting motions, right? So I do a lot of just body weight work or a whole heavy dumbbell. I'm twisting while I'm doing it. So I'm building actual core strength. Some people train their core, again, in the central plane. They forget, like, the core is not just the rectus abdominis, right? It's all the trainers. There are all these other things that help hold you stable, and you need to train with other movements other than just this.
And that's why I'm super excited that we're bringing this into Reboot, is these EMS suits, even for you and I to do.
Yeah.
Because now you have a kind of wetsuit type suit you put on. And this is where technology is going. You have a tablet that's controlling the suit. There's stimulation patches all through the suit. So now as you're working out and doing just body weight stuff, like dumbbell movements, band work, just getting the range of motions going, but your whole body's contracting at the same time, and you can increase the arms, you can increase the legs, the abs, the back, while you do those movements. And where somebody's weak, you can just isolate that area. But 20 minutes, so literally that's the max you can do is 20 minutes and you're done. So that whole hour thing, I think, is going to go away. I used to do 3-hour workouts, but I got to say it's probably 45 minutes of actual work. The rest was like talking with buddies. You're like, yeah, let's get this set going. You like get pumped up for 5-6 minutes, and then you do your max bench, and then you're out. And I feel like that's just one type of exercise, right? Which has built a foundation. So it wasn't the greatest way of working out for years, which is just 3 hours in the gym, pre-workout, post-workout, intro-workout, supplements, everything you can imagine. But the one thing I got out of that over those years was I was trying to gain as much weight as possible, right? Be as big as possible. There was a point of that. Never went into steroids or anything, so just doing it naturally. Because every time that I would go off for maybe 6 months to a year, my body always went back to the same weight. 160 is my number. It doesn't matter if I got to 180 or if I was at 120 at some point. It found its spot where it wanted to be, and it maintained like the core muscle that it needed to maintain, which is part of where I think I built that in those times. So you just got to figure out what works well for your body and change it up, do different things like mountain biking or different sports that are out there. These suits are a way that I think like once or twice a week max, you can get the equivalent because you're working on the muscle 1 and 2 fibers, just like you would with a calisthenic workout, and put some weights into there. And you're not putting a lot of the strain on the body with the heavy weights, but you're getting a similar workload as lifting heavier weight. Yeah, I think that could be a game changer eventually.
Absolutely. I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, even go back to just the general workout structure. So, I mean, if go in a gym and just lift heavy weights all the time, that's your thing, like, cool. There's no problem with that. I just think, again, people get locked into like a time construct, or they have to do this thing a certain way because that's the only way to do it. Well, there's many ways to do that. Just explore other types of like But again, going back to it's movement. Because what a lot of people, and the site shows this, a lot of people think, well, I go to the gym every day for an hour, and I can't lose weight or I can't achieve what I'm trying to achieve. But it's because they sit for the next 8 to 10 hours at an office desk, right? And they've already shown this, like even from a metabolic standpoint, you can work out for an hour and it's not going to help you. But doing things like just getting up every hour and just doing 10 bodyweight squats is the equivalent of walking 30 minutes, right? So
Yeah, that's awesome.
taking time, even if you have the time at lunch, if you're working somewhere, it's just going out for a 30-minute walk. Yeah, as long as you can possibly walk. If you got stairs at your office, just walk up and down the stairs.
Yeah, true.
Just to move your body and get things moving, because we were not designed to like sit like this all day long.
No, for sure not.
It's terrible for us.
Yeah, and those stand-up desks that we have now that just go up and down, like $120, you can buy a desk that just electronically goes 1 and 2. 2 is standing desk, 1 is sitting desk. Anybody, for the most part, that has a business now could probably afford to get those kind of desks. And it's just for your own health again. So stand up, sit. There's times I got to go outside and just get in the sun for like 10 minutes because I'm like the brain's about to explode. And that 10 minutes makes such a difference, and that's those little things that you figure out in your routine that you might even subconsciously do, where you just, whatever it is you do, you leave for a few minutes and it's because you're trying to clear your mind.
Absolutely.
Those are cool little tips that we just got to help people acknowledge that they're doing or they need to do. They're talking a lot about muscle mass now. Like I love William Seeds, Dr. Seeds. He's that's where I went and got certified in peptides and learning about it. Learned very little about peptides at the time. It was actually about the biology of the body, like how the body physically works. And once you understand that, then you use specific peptides to help those pathways do their job. But his huge part of what he teaches is working out, because muscle mass and how important muscle mass and stimulating the muscle and breaking it down to rebuild, like how important that is for our longevity. Would you agree with that? Or?
Well, absolutely. Sarcopenia is a real thing, right? We lose muscle as we age. I do think there's a little bit of aspects where they say, well, it gets harder and harder to build muscle as you get older. And there is some truth that X are competing with that, just muscle wastage as you get older. But it's not just about the size of the muscle, the skeletal muscle mass, all those different things, the quality of the muscle, right? Again, like big muscles don't necessarily equate to strength, right? Strength is a totally different concept. So like I'm not a big guy. I used to be, like I was like you, to just work out crazy in 2-3 hour sessions, lift a lot. It was up to like 215, 220 at one point, and just really still look very lean.
Yeah,
really
right.
Body fat. Like it's just being so heavy, like it killed my joints, my ligaments, the tendons. Like it was awful. And so when I shifted out of that, it's just being more functional. I don't have to lift a lot of weight in order to build muscle and be strong.
And the other thing is, people are thinking using testosterone, like for guys, using testosterone, getting our T levels as high as possible is going to make us jacked. And that's, again, another issue that we should be good to talk a little bit about, because testosterone, I'm seeing 29-year-olds and so on with like 120 to 300 testosterone. And their only way to fix that in their mind is get hormone therapy. So I think there's a lot that's contributing to the low testosterone. I'm seeing it. I actually see somebody go from, not everybody, but 100 to 450 within 90 days. Just detoxing the body, getting the colon cleaned out, getting the organs to work better, again, removing like the buildup of toxins in the system. So there's obviously a mechanism of that where if they're just increasing testosterone that way, like that should open people's eyes.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up testosterone, because that is kind of the focal point, and everybody focuses on it, and it's like, oh, I gotta get higher, right? So they think, well, I gotta eat more red meat, I gotta work out more, I gotta do all these different things. And you'll see those guys at the gym, or just see them out there, and they're spraying like cologne all over them. They're using plastic towels, they're using all these different things. They don't realize, like, actually probably the root cause of the low testosterone, which is now being found, is actually endocrine disruptors, right? Microplastics, a big source of all that, right? So back in the 80s, average male testosterone 600 to 800.
Right. Okay.
Good level. Sperm motility in the 100 million standpoint average.
Mm-hmm.
Today, average is about 300 to 400 for testosterone.
Man, it looks about right.
And
from what I see,
motility is down to about 48 million, right? So if you think about it from just the almost an existential species standpoint. We're not going in the right direction. Like those numbers have dropped over 50% in 50 years, and it's only going down more and more and more. And so it's some of the recent research is showing microplastics, and people have heard about microplastics. Yes, they are. Not to be alarmist, but every single person right now has a lot of plastic inside their body, inside their brain, because it's everywhere. And it's because we use things and don't even think about what we're using because we think that they're safe. But more importantly, go back to from the male side of things, for especially testosterone, is what most guys don't realize is what clothes we're wearing, right? So when you think about performance workout gear and underwear, what do most guys wear? Like, because it says performance, like all the Nike and Under Armour, all that stuff. I used to wear all that stuff as well. And I combated, lower testosterone levels because of it. And as soon as I threw all that crap out and then used the real performance fiber that everybody forgot about,
right?
Wool. And everything's like wool. That's itchy, and it's
thinking about like sheet. It's shaving on.
It's like itchy, and like the word so itchy, and so that's to keep you warm. Well, no, it's a performance fiber. So if it's cold out, it'll keep you warm. If it's warm out, it'll keep you cool. Like it's a naturally regulated fiber. Like for example, this undershirt I have on, wool. My underwear I'm wearing, wool. Socks, wool. Why? Because I want all those areas that are closest, especially for men. If you're wearing polyester underwear, which is let's just call it what it is, it's plastic,
right?
Or the other words for plastic, spandex, elastane, lycra, all those things are plastic.
Okay.
And so when you wear those textiles, plastic sheds. It's not like any natural fiber shed, materials.
Yeah.
And so those microplastics, from a male point of view, especially, it's important. When you get hot and sweaty, that plastic is actually leaching in through your throat and into your testicles. And it gets into the Leydig cells. So the Leydig cells actually are going to be for sperm motility and testosterone production.
Right.
And so when you have those microplastics, and it's not, I think people think it's just the plastic. Well, it's actually the chemicals that make the plastic a certain way. So bisphenols are used in plastics to make them harder and give them a certain shape.
Mm-hmm.
And phthalates are used to make the plastic more pliable.
Yeah, flexible.
So the plastics that have both those, and people think about, the thing became, BPA free. So bisphenol A. BPA stands for bisphenol A. That type of plastic was found to be, very, very much an issue for causing endocrine disruption in the body, right? Hormone disruption. That's why that happens. And so but now we're learning it's not just BPA, right? It's all the other secondary, tertiary plastics that have been put in place to take the place of BPA.
Okay.
So just because it's a BPA free doesn't necessarily mean it's toxic free. So bisphenols in general, if you wear polyester underwear, if you just stop doing that and wear organic cotton or wool, I wear a lot of wool underwear. It's phenomenal, right? It's super comfortable, breathable. Your testosterone level, I promise you, will go up just by shifting to that standpoint.
Talking men's health, right? Wool underwear for guys, easy to find. I don't think I've ever even heard of wool.
No, that's the problem, right? And so from a textile standpoint, even it was probably early last year when I really started to get rid of a lot more of it started with, socks, underwear, undershirts, things that were really close to the body.
Yeah.
And then
what made you do that a year ago?
Just really getting into the research of plastics and seeing the hormone disruptions, and then just looking at blood work and trends. And then once I got rid of that stuff, noticing that everything got much better.
Yeah, right.
And so 100% wool underwear is also really hard to find. So if you go to Amazon, for example, Amazon is riddled with just knockoffs of various things. So they'll call it 100% merino wool. Yeah. More often than not, it's not. One way you can tell is just you use the smell test, right? But these people, I think,
can we explain that?
Right? Well, people just need to talk about these things, right? Because we're like, oh, well, we don't want to talk about our bodies and just how things smell a certain way, right? Or at the end of the day, if you let's say ginger, that's polyester, right? Why does it smell so bad? Well, because it's plastic.
So, for example, workout shirts that as soon as you start sweating, they smell like garbage into the armpit. Right. Is that an example of what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Is it just so it just reactivates and then stinks?
Yeah.
So that's a good example because me and Dana have noticed that is for some reason there's certain shirts that we wear that just stink under the armpit. It doesn't even matter. Like we just,
It's polyester.
yeah, we just barely started wearing it, and it stinks already.
So if you wear a 100% wool t-shirt underneath, you won't get that stink.
As long as I can find some cool wool gear, I will do it. It's gotta look good, man.
Going back to the underwear side of it, yeah, it's really hard to find. Like,
It is?
100%
Okay.
wool. And then, there are a lot more companies that are coming out now, and they're cognizant of it, right? And they're getting out front of it. So that a lot of, for me, one thing I think that hopefully we start to see a lot more of, but the production to make this material is a lot harder because just the regulations around the plant is hemp. Like hemp is one of the best fibers that you can have.
Hemp underwear?
Yeah, organic cotton, way to
Nice.
go. But and again, it's not just the organic side of things.
Okay.
Like organic. It's like, why do we need to have organic? It should be just cotton wool. Like,
Right.
yeah, it used to just be eggs. It used to just be meat. It used to just be plants. But we decided to like poison all those things with putting chemicals and other things that we weren't made to ingest on those things. That's where, yes, organic is actually important. Organic does not mean it's not free of stuff, right? Especially on the food side of things. But for clothing now, for textiles, there are actually certifications. So the OEKO tech certification means that it doesn't have any of those chemicals in the actual manufacturing process.
Okay.
Like, so dyes are a big thing too, right? So just because you have like wool or organic cotton, if it's dyed with certain types of dyes that have, again, phthalates in them, you're not actually doing any better.
So typically when you buy like your wool boxers, they just don't have color, or it's just the color of the fabric of the wool?
Yeah, well, I mean, they use different dyes that don't have that stuff.
Okay,
right?
so there's good dyes that
Yeah, they're hard to find, and yes, you're gonna pay more. They also last if you take care of them, right? And but the other thing too is when you wear wool, like you don't have like this shirt. I could wear this undershirt for 3 or 4 days before I needed to wash it.
And so you're noticing that it's just not smelling.
Yeah, you don't need to wash clothes as often.
Yeah, okay.
Like there's a few gym short brands now that are really coming up in terms of they have it's like an organic cotton outer shell. They've got merino wool liners, so you don't have to worry about like that is your just like workout shorts, and you just put those on, do your workout. They're not going to stink afterwards. You wear them the next day, right? So you don't need as many clothes that we're used to, right? Because everybody's like,
That's a conversation on its own, because I don't know who you're going to convince of that, but for sure, that's definitely something we think about is there's only a one-time use for everything that we're wearing.
it's hard to get over that, and most people are like, oh, that's weird and that's gross, and it's actually not, right? The antimicrobial factors of wool itself, you'll see the benefits of your body, right? But when you start to do these things, you won't have those chemicals impacting your Leydig cells, causing your especially if you're trying to have kids, or if you're struggling with low testosterone, you won't have those issues. It will actually change. We'll see it in blood work.
Back to kind of the men's health side and testosterone, right? So I don't know why it shocked me. It shocked me a little bit when I did my hormone panels. I just turned 40. I did my hormone panels. I was just curious, like, where's my testosterone at, right? And to be completely transparent, really since COVID, my workout routine's been very limited. So maybe for the last 2 to 3 years, I've worked out minimal, meaning like I used to do CrossFit a lot, go to the gym and just lift weights and do those things. It was more mountain biking and doing things like physical things with the body versus like an actual workout, concentrated workout. But the eating part, the doing therapies like the hyperbaric, doing certain infusions, peptides, all that. So I get my numbers back and it's at 800. And I'm like, wow, that's really high. And I wasn't expecting that, but I feel like for my age and what we're doing, like that's a healthy number. Like that's a good number for us to be at,
Right.
without trying to be at that number, right? So it tells me that the body's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I think that's where there's something that maybe for another podcast or conversation that we could probably teach. I mean, when's the last time you did your testosterone?
It's back in December.
December?
Yeah, it's over 800.
Over 800. So that's the thing is that's what literally people are going to centers to get testosterone to be in the 800s to thousands, right? And yet here we are, we obviously doing something right as males that are in their 40s that are hitting those numbers naturally.
Right.
So that's what I think we need to teach and find those things in our routine that are doing that to be able to help others that can make that change. Because all guys could be at 6 to 800 for sure. It's just, why aren't they? And there's reasons why.
It's in my opinion, it's a cultural issue. It requires a mindset shift. It requires people just to not be a sheep and go outside herd and actually just do what is actually good for the body.
Yeah, and do what's good for you.
Right. And so even, you talk about like certain testosterone numbers, and yeah, you'll go see certain doctors who are trying to push hormones, and that's fine. But they're like, oh yeah, it should be over 1,000. It's like, well, why? That 1,000 might not be good for you. So that perfect example is probably 6 years ago, a couple other health issues, and it's before I really got into figuring out, okay, what are the pathways for testosterone and hormonal balance, all that stuff. And I had my testosterone has dropped. It's down at like the 500s. Why is this happening? I had to talk to, did some functional medicine stuff, and I will try some, testosterone, right? Do the injections, got up to like over 1,000, but like I was angry. Right, it was not a good level for me. So like I know where my good level is. If I'm in the 8 to 850 range, I feel good, and I'm not angry.
Yeah,
right. So I think you hit the nail on the head, right? People I think try to push for like a certain number.
Yeah,
but like that number might not be optimal for you, right? And so it's about finding what is that optimal, and getting outside of just what everybody thinks is the optimal level.
Yeah,
it's not what everybody else thinks. Like, do you design your lifestyle? But yeah, I mean, the reality is, using colognes and fragrances and laundry detergents that have all that stuff in it, that those are all endocrine disruptors.
remember when Axe came out, the body spray?
That's one of the
crap out of
right. The most comical things I see is guys who are like trying to get big and eat all the protein and doing all that stuff, and they're just spraying themselves with endocrine disrupting chemicals that lower their testosterone, which makes it harder to actually achieve the results they're trying to achieve.
If for any husbands that are home and they have their wives at home doing hairspray, if you've never noticed this, if I walk by her doing the hairspray thing, I immediately sneeze like 3-4 times. And it's because I'm breathing in, my lungs going, nope, like we're going to get this crap out as soon as possible. My lungs trying to get rid of what I'm breathing in through the aerosol spray.
Yeah, those VOCs, if you smell stuff like that, it is wreaking havoc on your whole system.
And that's like, how many times you're at the house or anywhere around and you walk by someone, you're like, oh yeah, what is that? Like, dude, chill out.
I'm very sensitive to all this smell now, and people think, well, we want things to smell good, right? You want laundry to smell good. Yeah, well, when you wear all polyester material, like you have to like mask that scent with all these other things, right? Yeah. So it's this vicious cycle. As soon as you just switch to wool or anicot leaded, linen's really great as well. You don't have to use chemicals to clean.
That's a good point for sure. Microplastic wise, I was trying to look up a little bit on this too before we had this conversation. Ways to detox this out of the body, right? Like, how do we find out we have microplastics? And I was looking at blood work. So can you put your blood under a microscope and see microplastics? And they were telling what I found out was you just can't really decipher if it's a microplastic or is it like an unused protein or something else that's in the blood. But it can be inside your cell, outside your cell. And that's what's scary, because if it's in the cell, or the body can detox and remove a lot of stuff on its own, like it's designed. But if it's able to kind of just be anywhere in the body, it makes it really hard to get rid of it. And that's where we have to really figure out how to fix this before it's a huge problem.
Well, the thing you said is like trying to determine if we have microplastics in our body. No, 100% of everybody everybody, we all have plastics in our bodies. There is no, you have none. Right. But it's also the important thing too, is like we are never going to eradicate that sample. We're always going to have it in us, but the levels at which we have those things and how we just live to mitigate as much as possible. That is in our control. It's just a matter of deciding, well, that this is important. And for me, my personal opinion, I think, from the microplastic standpoint, again, it's not just the plastics like we're talking about. It's the phthalates and the phenols in those plastics, which are causing the issues intracellularly and in organs and other issues at the brain, especially. And then more so, it's not just microplastics, but the latest research is more from the nanoplastic standpoint. So micro just means millionth of a meter, microns, right? Nano, billionth, right? Very, very, very small particles. Those nanoparticles are breathing in. And so it's not just about like filtering water. It's not about just using like water bottles that are
Yeah.
inert surfaces, stainless, glass, silica, right? Plastic is everywhere, and like you have to be conscious on where you're using it, and even from the standpoint of like heating plastic, right? So like in the kitchen,
Yep.
coffee cups. Like if you go to Starbucks and that paper cup, you think it's a paper cup. Well, what's that paper cup lined with? It's actually got plastic in it. As soon as you hit that with hot coffee, you're taking all that plastic and just putting it inside the coffee, and now you have even more microplastics that you're ingesting, right? So that's that, but that requires us to change how we live and how we do things, and it's a choice. And I think, again, my opinion, this is one of those things where it's going to be, the asbestos that we found, with that standpoint, or the forever chemicals, the PFAS. Still a major issue today, even though it was technically outlawed. It's still in industrial processes. It's still
Yeah,
a society
right.
where, why are they called forever chemicals? Well, because they don't go away. If we ingest them in our body, they don't leave.
Yeah.
They get inside the organs, they get inside cells, they get inside our brain, it causes all these issues. But going back to the nanoparticle issue, that's more concerning thing that I'm realizing. It's just air filtration now becomes crucial, because we're in confined spaces with all these things that are plastic. They're shedding, like you're wearing plastic clothes, it's shedding plastic particles, and you walk around, it's getting thrown up into the air. So having, things people can do, there's kind of floor HEPA units that you can have. So yeah, I heard about getting a floor HEPA unit.
Okay, I got a couple of those.
Your whole house filter, like having something that's in the 13 plus range of HEPA filtration.
Yeah.
You need to filter some of that stuff out, and you're not gonna. You're not gonna be 100%. So it's about finding that mindset of not being, freaking out over it, but understanding that it is important, because it more than likely is contributing to a lot of your health ailments that can't be explained by, modern medicine.
Yeah.
So it's important to eradicate as much insect as possible.
So earlier I was asking you the question, in your opinion, do you think we're ingesting most of these microplastics through food, drinking water? Is it through the skin? Is it breathing? And you actually mentioned breathing at this point. And that's interesting because part of the epigenetic testing I did on myself, right, was finding out that the lung was overactive, and then in my cells there were chemical hydrocarbons that were higher. And this was it's actually maybe a year and a half ago. And I was thinking, what can I do about that? So I figured what makes sense is, I know these microplastics are probably not something you can just bind with like supplementation and help flush them out, like heavy metals, parasites, things like that. So I went through a detox. It's the same detox we do at Reboot, where we just clean out your main filters: liver, gallbladder, kidney, bladder, lung, by using a nebulizer to help clear the lung out, and the EBO2, which was the blood filtering, ozoning, and then light frequency into the blood. Excuse me, which the idea was, I'm not expecting to remove a ton of microplastics, but if I can get the organs, which is like the liver and those main organs that are filtering your blood, to clean them out, and then just take some pressure off the body by cleaning the physical blood out, which you can do 5 to 7 liters, pretty much all your blood in one session. It's just to help the body do that job. And I almost immediately noticed a difference in skin, just the mental focus. As business owners, we have to kind of perform at a higher level sometimes, and the mental fog really makes that hard to do. So being able to clear the system out to have more energy to put where it needs to go, I noticed a huge difference on that. So I agree, the lung, because I see the lung so much in this testing that we do being overactive. And I'm like, why? Like, why are you're just sitting there during the scan when we do it? Yet I would say easily 80% or more have high lung function. And that makes total sense if it's because of what we're ingesting everywhere between sprays and
A lot of it's ingested, with drinking foods through the skin. But again, the newer research is the inhalation of the nanoparticles. So
Okay.
yeah, it could be the lung aspect, but I think the at least what the current sentiment is the bigger cause of concern is for the brain, because those nanoparticles actually cross the blood-brain barrier.
Okay.
And so the kind of notion right now is we're all living with basically
the size of a plastic, pork or spoon of plastic in our brains.
Oh, nice.
So like from a mental fog perspective, all those things, even, they're looking at contributions of plastics in conjunction with other things, of calcifying the pineal gland, right? Which is important for a whole bunch of other processes in the body. When you couple that with fluoride and aluminum, all those other things that we're putting inside our body that weren't meant to do, that's this perfect cascade of a storm that's just causing all these deleterious effects on our system. But yeah, like that is one of the emerging research standpoints for EBO and EBO2, for the ability to remove microplastics from the blood, especially. There's a lot of late research on some plant compounds. So okra and fenugreek, two plants, very high polysaccharide content. So polysaccharides, it makes it mucilage. It's a think of a when you have mucus, it's that kind of thick.
Yeah.
And it binds stuff, and so that mucilage in those plants have actually been shown to bind and flush out microtoxins.
Okay.
And microplastics. And so I don't, they're using it more so from like cleaning water, from that standpoint. But in terms of the inside of the body, that they think that's also the case. So the unfortunate side of thing is there isn't a test at this point to like find how do you actually know what your microplastic load is?
Yeah, right. Overall load.
Now there are some newer urine tests, for example, that can show your rough, kind of phthalate and bisphenol concentrations. Thinking, what based on the leaching of those chemicals, right, and through processing, filtering out, through the urine. So that's a good thing. So we at least have something. And then
Speaking of that, one cool thing you can do with when you're done with the EBO2 session and it shows the reservoir with all your crap that came out of your blood is doctors are sending that off to urinalysis for a urinalysis. So it's tested just like urine.
Okay.
And they're actually picking up what's in there. And it is specific metals, microplastics, proteins that are just unused proteins that can't be utilized, oxidized lipids, all kinds of crazy stuff that's coming out of there. So that's kind of cool, but that's one way we can at least see what we're getting out. I don't think it makes a difference if you know your load, because it's not going to really change what you do. And you're not going to say, oh, I'm going to do more of this because my load's higher. If you have microplastics, which we all do, like you mentioned, it's just, we just have to do preventative things and help the body deal with it. But I just don't know if it'll help to know the load.
If you know where your baseline is, right, and then you make changes to, for example, get rid of all your plastic clothes and your plastic, bed sheets, and reduce where you're using plastics.
But I guess everybody should do that, right?
I agree. That requires dedication and work to do that, but I think they are seeing people who do that do have reduced levels of those things, and they'll see hormonal changes in the positive direction, spermatozoid in the positive direction when they actually do eradicate plastic from their life.
That's a big part of sperm quality, testosterone, fertility, and then if you're an entrepreneur, as just the male side, having more clarity, focus, energy to do your job and to run a business. So I think on the male side, there's a lot that can be done, but it goes male and female, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's something we need to focus a little bit more on because I see so much issues with testosterone. So I think it'd be cool if we had another conversation like that and just creating a routine for men in general to maintenance that kind of stuff, and then create one for women as well.
Yeah, I mean, because what they're all seeing from the fertility side of things, even when the couple does get pregnant, there's a higher rate of miscarriages, and then when they take steps to actually eradicate plastic exposure, pregnancies happen.
Yeah, okay.
It's amazing when we get rid of the toxic environment and let our bodies do what they're designed to do, but they'll do it. But again, going back to, my feeling personally is we are probably at an existential point of fertility in the world, and that it's because of just how we live and the chemicals and process we use to have the things that we all enjoy, like as part of modern day life. But those things are also quietly killing us. Like, so it's incumbent upon us to actually find the ways to reduce that load so we can actually at least operate an optimal way inside of that toxic environment, right? We can't eradicate completely, but we can take some steps to at least still operate in that the higher level in that space, because it impacts men and women both equally from the hormone disrupted standpoint. In my opinion, women have even more issues with it just because of the hormonal changes that they have to
Naturally go through,
right,
and
just experiencing, and then you add all these chemicals on top of it. It's just this storm of just things that the body doesn't want to deal with, and then it causes all of those cascading effects. But yeah, especially with the Men's Health Month on the horizon here in June, it's a great time for guys, maybe especially entrepreneurs who are like struggling to find some ways to get back to an optimal level.
Yeah, struggling with their gut. So when we're talking about, because these are all things we're talking about now to help reduce microplastics and hormones and health hormones and things like that. So if we're talking about longevity, for example, at Reboot, where most people are coming over with an issue and they're thinking about how can I get over this issue? So we've created these phases, right? These phases are helping the body get back to a point. But everybody eventually has to go to this longevity phase, because the longevity phase is how you stay that way. You stay in a good condition, you have a good environment inside and outside of your body. And really that should be the most important factor. And that's where your self-care comes in. If we don't ever focus on the longevity, right, and you just go and you do one EVO2 session, or you go and you just do like a binder capsule blend, crazy detox, and poop your brains out, right? In your opinion, like, what do you think is the negative if you just do the one-offs and you don't make it an actual lifestyle for longevity?
Well, I think that's just in general for most people, right? They'll do some workout routine and diet routine, and really focus on what they're taking in food wise and working out, and they'll do great, and they lose a bunch of weight, and they're healthy, and then life gets in the way, and that hasn't become a disciplined habit. It falls off, and so it's the same thing with anything you're to be able to take care of your health. And so I think, as we talked about, the sleep aspect and the microplastics, and people think like those are two different things. I view it as part of the same cycle. So microplastics are causing hormonal disruption. They're causing things that impact our sleep, and then our sleep isn't as good, which also causes more cascading hormonal effects, which also causes more inflammation. So we're not getting less deep sleep and REM sleep, more crap in the body that's not getting out when it's supposed to, more inflammation build up, and inflammation is the precursor for all the diseases and ailments that we have. And so by consistently staying with, some sort of protocols where you're actually, at period, because again, we're living in this toxic world. We're not going to ever not have a toxic world. That is the reality. However, there are things we can do, some of the things that are at Reboot that, can take advantage of just helping the body actually, getting the body a little push to get a lot of that stuff out to help, thrive and contribute to longevity, right?
And stop that like chain reaction, like you're talking about, the cascading effect.
And just, all some of the things in the the things that you guys do offer that also help from a standpoint of regulating all the systems of hormones, so they all work together so that you get better sleep, so you actually have more energy, less brain fog. So when you wake up in the morning, you have the energy to get up and feel refreshed, to have time with your significant other, your kids, and you go to work and you can thrive at work, and then you come home and you still have that energy to do that at the end of the day, and then getting good sleep, right? And then that is a normal cycle, and I think that's where everybody wants to get to. They feel just like maybe, it's too hard to do that. But it's a choice, right? It's designing and eradicating, just saying, hey, I'm going to make this choice today to start eradicating these things and focus on ensuring that I'm putting good stuff in my body, preventing as much of the bad stuff.
Because you do a lot of research, what was it that made you come to Reboot to do something very specific? You came in, you decided to do the hyperbaric, right? But there was a reason for that.
You need more recently.
Yeah.
So for me, I've had, most people have sensitivity to mold.
Right.
But some people have certain genes that are making more sensitive to mold. Like I go back with the folks who really had like mold toxicity, where they have to move to Arizona and get rid of everything they've ever owned because it lives on all that stuff. I was doing some deep cleaning, and it just kind of came across the mold, and it's almost like I could feel it, like when it breathed it in, like just hit me, and it knocked me out for days. And I don't get sick, and so for something to actually knock me out for days,
right.
I had to again help eradicate and boost the body. So there's some more detox dome and H-bot sessions just to kind of, help replenish the body, because my oxygen levels were lower because of that. I had it up pretty closely, and just give the body a chance to reboot and restore itself.
So that's awesome, because that is the whole purpose of Reboot, right? Is you do your research so you know what you need. Perfect. Come in, you did the hyperbaric detox dome, you helped your body deal with that period because you did the deep cleaning. Not everybody is going to do research like you've done. So then that's where we have the ability to do the research for you, right? We scan your body, get all the data, and then say, okay, yeah, hyperbaric detox dome makes total sense. I mean, look at the mold spore buildup in your cells, your lungs affected, which just means you probably breathed it in. So we got to help the lung clear it out as well as help the body get rid of it. And I think there's just tools. There are tools that we use. And once you get to the point where you're in the longevity portion of the program, you're just using Reboot as a tool when you need it. And that's where I think we're going to be fortunate enough to really help as many people as possible, because people are going to start catching on to this, that all these little things are tools. And unfortunately, we can't afford to buy all this stuff put in our house. Not all of us can. So having a place where you can go, and if you're not sure what to do, scan the body, see what you need. Okay, knock it out, and then just stay on top of things.
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, going to be a great way to deal with the future, because it's inevitable, like you said. It's only going to get worse, because as we build more, come out with cool stuff like the next plastic underwear that exists that you never have to wash again.
Right.
But imagine what it's doing to the body.
Yeah.
So it's we just got to keep up with the environment, and I think we can do it. I think we can survive, keep up with the environment, deal with all this crazy stuff going on, if we can just keep the body primed, because it has a crazy capacity to deal with the environment.
Body will heal itself if you have the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely, for sure. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. I love the info. I know we're going to do more of these, but we'll keep going down more rabbit holes and come up with more info on how we can biohack the body.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.